Hi, everyone. My name is Dara Kurtz, and I am so happy to get to speak with you today. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about 10 lessons that I learned when I went through breast cancer. And I want to tell you my story and then share with you takeaways that I think will help you in your life, regardless of the challenges that you're currently facing. So it's been 6.5 years since I heard those words, you have breast cancer. And at the time, I was 42 years old. My kids were 11 and 14. And, it really kind of happened like you hear it happens. One day I was fine and out living my life. And then the next day I was hearing words like mass, biopsy. And so it was a really scary time for me. We ended up learning all of the details about everything. And of course, that took a few weeks. But after learning that, I was lucky that we found it relatively early. I wanted to be as aggressive as possible. So I went through chemo and radiation and surgery and more surgery. And then I got to the end of that, and the doctor said, okay, Dara, time to go back to living your life, time to go back. And I realized, I didn't really know how to live after going through something like that because for so long I'd really focused on trying to get through the treatment plan that I found myself in this space and wasn't really sure of kind of what to do. So I took a lot of time to help myself figure out what I wanted to do to really kind of move forward with my life AC after cancer. And if you talk to a lot of people who have been through any kind of cancer, you will learn that people kind of look at their life BC before cancer and then AC after cancer. And really that's exactly how I felt. And so I had to give myself time and space to really figure it out. I did a lot of reading and work on myself. I started meditating and really committed to just a self-care practice like I had never had before. And fortunately, time went by and I decided to quit my job. I started my blog, Crazy Perfect Life, started writing, and since then have been on this amazing path where I have had two books published. So, and now I speak and really get to connect and coach people, and it's really been amazing. And I wouldn't be doing any of this if I hadn't been through breast cancer 6.5 years ago. So, today, I want to talk to you a little bit about what I've learned since going through all of that, because I think there are a lot of really relevant blessings that I've been able to learn and take away that can help really anyone. And I've done a lot of speaking on this particular topic, whether or not it's been via Zoom with big companies or nonprofits or smaller places. So I think a lot of people have really learned a lot from me sharing this, and I'm excited to be able to do it today with you via Zoom with the mighty. So we're going to go through the 10 takeaways. If you have any questions at all, feel free to ask me any questions in the chat, and I will absolutely do my best to answer these questions as we go through. And then, of course, you can also email me at any time. My email address is dara@crazyperfectlife.com. So I'm always happy to get emails as well. So 10 lessons I learned. So the number one lesson is that life will pass you by if you aren't careful. And this is a really important lesson for all of us to take a moment to think about, because time really is our most precious commodity. And if we don't take the time to be intentional about how we're spending our time and what we're doing with our lives, then time really will pass you by. And so I really encourage everyone who is listening to this to, take a moment later on today, maybe this weekend, think about how you're spending your time. What are you doing on a day-to-day basis? Are you spending your time doing things that bring you joy and happiness, or are you checking things off of your to-do box? So really pay attention to how you're spending your time. You don't want to just let time pass by. You don't want to just get through the day. You really want to be intentional about what you do with your life, what you do with your day. And so it's really worth looking at and thinking about. The second thing that I want to share with you is let go of what you can't control. And I feel like I could spend a lot of time talking about this, especially right now, with the virus. There's a lot that we can't control, but there are also things that we can control. So I encourage you to really look at your life, look at where you're getting kind of anxious or maybe what you're really focusing on, and try to help yourself let go of things that you can't control, but focus on the things that you can control. And that's empowering. It's empowering to realize that, you can't control if you get the coronavirus, but you actually can control if you're social distancing or wearing a mask or who you're spending time with. So you can't control maybe if you get sick, but you can control how you take care of yourself, your exercise, if you're eating well, your spiritual practice. So there's a lot of things that we can control. And I think a lot of times it's easy to get hung up on focusing on the things we can't control. And that makes it doesn't feel good to be in that space. So instead, I really encourage you to do your best to kind of let that go and channel your energy into focusing on things that will really help you feel better and help you kind of control the things that you can control. Number 3, this is a big one. Be careful who you spend your time with. This is such an important one. We want to be with people who make us feel good about ourselves, who build us up instead of people who tear us down or people who are super negative. And I realized after I went through breast cancer that, some of the people that had been in my life, they didn't necessarily make me feel good about myself, or they were really negative, and I had changed a lot. And maybe I saw things in a different way after what I had gone through. And so I sort of gave myself permission, and that's a big one. You've got to give yourself permission to maybe distance yourself from people who don't make you feel good or who are really, really negative, because I'm the kind of person where I really feel the energy of people around me, and I've just sort of had to pay attention to that. And I really try to really pay attention and be intentional about that as well. And I encourage you to do the same. And it's not that anything major, dramatic has to happen, just sort of back off a little bit. If you find that, I don't feel like I have a lot in common with this person, or I don't want to spend a lot of time with this person anymore, just sort of back off a little bit. And you know what that does? It opens up space for you to meet new people and for you to have new positive people who maybe are a little bit more in line with the kind of person you are now in this season of your life. And so it can be maybe a little bit scary to move away from people, but it can also be really exciting to make that space to bring new people into your life. So pay attention to who you hang with. Number 4, our thoughts have power, and we have to be really paying attention to our mind. Our mind can be a scary place, and it's really actually empowering to realize that our minds have power. But that means that we have to pay attention to what we let ourselves think about. Sometimes I've talked to people who say, Dara, it's so easy to say that, but then I might be fine. And then the next thing I know, I just spent 20 minutes going over something in my mind that's causing me to feel really, really anxious. And I didn't even know that I was doing that. And so we've got to pay attention to our thoughts. We really do. So I encourage you to sort of try to travel through your life, your day, and, pay attention to the thoughts that are going on in your mind, your subconscious and your conscious brain. Pay attention to what you're telling yourself. Are you saying positive things to yourself, or are you your own worst enemy? Are you saying things that don't feel very good? Are you saying things that cause you to feel anxious and scared? So, a lot happens in our day, but a lot of it is truly the way we interpret it and what we're telling ourselves about what's happening in our day. And I really learned this after I went through breast cancer. And, I realized that if I wanted to make peace with what I had been through, I had the ability to do that, but it really all had to do with what I was telling myself and the way I was talking to myself. So, regardless of whatever you're facing now, regardless of any challenges that you're going through in your life, really pay attention to how you talk to yourself and what you think. And I can't say enough about having a meditation practice, a daily meditation practice to help you sort of get your mind in a space where you're not letting your mind sort of run unchecked. So if you don't have a daily meditation practice, I really encourage you to figure out how to have one. I have a lot of resources on my website, crazyperfectlife.com. I talk a lot about that. But that's been sort of a game changer for me, is just having that daily meditation practice. Okay. Number 5, ditch the guilt and the shoulds and give yourself a break. Now, I've been doing so much writing over the pandemic for a lot of other places, and I've written 2 articles about guilt. And I've realized that so many people are traveling through their day feeling a lot of guilt about maybe what's happened in the past, or things they've said, or maybe they've hurt people's feelings, or maybe they feel like they didn't handle things as well as they could have. And the bottom line is, we can't change what has happened. And so, give yourself a break. We're not perfect. We're human beings. And the reality of that is that we're flawed, and that's okay. And so give yourself a break. Tell yourself it's okay that you're not perfect, but try to help yourself let go of guilt. I always tell my kids, who are now 21 and 18, to, let go of the guilt. Guilt is a wasted emotion. And really, it doesn't change anything when we sit in that space and make ourselves feel badly about things. Same holds true with going through your life saying, oh, I should be doing this, or I should have done this, or I should have said this. I try really hard not to live my life based on shoulds anymore, because that doesn't really serve me well. Instead, I try to pay attention to really my heart and what I truly want. And I've also learned that not everyone's going to like me, and that's okay. And I'm not going to be able to live up to other people's standards necessarily, but giving myself permission to let go of any guilt that brings, or any shoulds, has been really a game changer for me. And I encourage you to pay attention to that in your life. Number 6, look for the beauty every day, everywhere. So, the world is such a beautiful place. And I'm not necessarily talking about those big moments in your life where maybe you have a wedding that you've gone to, or maybe you've gone on vacation and you're in a really beautiful place. I'm talking about paying attention, opening up your eyes, really seeing what's going on in the world, really paying attention to the beauty that's around you, whether or not that is, kindness that you see from your neighbor doing something nice for you, or just driving in your neighborhood and noticing a really beautiful tree because the leaves are changing colors, or, just having a quiet moment by yourself and feeling that that's just like a really beautiful gift that you've given yourself. So just pay attention to all the beauty that is really around us all the time, because it's so easy for us to get caught up in, all the noise and all of the things that we feel like we have to do. I don't know if you can hear the birds chirping. I've got my door opened in my sunroom, but the birds are chirping right now, and I love that. That's a beautiful thing to get to even acknowledge right now. Is just, that's a beautiful thing. So I love that happened. But really give yourself, be intentional about paying attention to the landscape of your life. And there's a lot of noise right now in the world. I know a lot of people are feeling really anxious about the election and the virus and just all of the things. but there's also a lot of beauty. So try to help yourself shift from being in that space to at least giving yourself time to recognize some really good, beautiful moments every single day. Number 7, this is a big one. Find gratitude and hold on to it with both hands. So before I went through breast cancer, I didn't really know what living with gratitude meant. I mean, I'd heard about it. It's kind of a buzzword out there. Are you living with gratitude? Or are you cultivating gratitude? So I didn't really know what that meant until I started a daily gratitude practice. And I want to talk to you a little bit about how to do that if you don't have a gratitude practice now, because it's something that I absolutely encourage you to consider bringing into your life. And it's so simple. Basically, having a gratitude practice means that you are taking a few minutes every day to intentionally think about 3 to 5 things that you're grateful for in your life, in that moment, in that day, just whatever. And so what I do is before I even get out of bed in the morning, because I've been doing this for so long, my mind automatically goes to, I am grateful for. Before I even get out of bed, my alarm clock goes off, I turn it off, and immediately my mind goes to, today I am grateful for. And I just list things in my mind that I'm really grateful for. It could be anything from, today I get to see my daughter and do blah, blah, blah. Or I'm just so grateful that I have a little free time today. I'm so grateful that my husband's not working today. I'm so grateful that my puppy is sitting right here. I'm so grateful that I'm alive, that I'm healthy. It's anything and everything. And it doesn't have to necessarily be really big things, especially like if you're going through a really challenging time right now, or you're not feeling good, or you're having a health situation. It can be really hard to find things to feel grateful for if you're in that space. And so, there were times when I was going through breast cancer when I wasn't feeling very good at all. I was going through chemo. I wasn't someone that sailed through it. I felt sick a lot. And there would be times that I would literally say, okay, I'm grateful for Netflix. I'm grateful for, this popsicle, because I wasn't in a very good space. I wasn't feeling very grateful, but I was trying to train my brain to think about things within that space. And so even if you're not feeling grateful, even if you feel like you've got a lot going on in your life, I still encourage you to try to come up with 3 to 5 things every day that are positive in your life, regardless of what they are. And what's going to happen is that if you continue to practice this, your mind is going to shift, and you're going to eventually get to the point where you wake up in the morning and you automatically think, what are you grateful for? And I like to do it before I go to bed as well. I like to kind of be in bed and think about the day just for a few minutes and really even name a couple things that I was grateful for in that day. And again, it can be a really big thing or it can be a really small thing. It's a really beautiful way for you to help yourself become a happier version of yourself, because people who live with gratitude become more joyful. And, joy is that's really the magic there, is when we can get into a space where we're feeling joyful. That's where all the magic happens. So I encourage you to do that. You might, if you're just starting this practice, you might want to have a journal, and you might want to sort of make it a little bit more structured, or in your daily calendar even, just take the time every day to list 3 things or 5 things that you're grateful for. You might want to be a little bit more structured with it if you're just starting out, rather than sort of doing it in your head. When I first started, I really did it that way. And I think for me, I'm a pen to paper kind of person, and that really, really did help me a lot. Okay, number 8, be a joy seeker. That kind of goes hand in hand with what I just said a second ago, which is gratitude, and living with gratitude and appreciating and counting your blessings helps you feel happier and cultivate joy. It helps you kind of acknowledge and notice all of the blessings in your life. And, you want to get to the point where you're traveling through your day, counting your blessings, not your problems. And that's really where you can become, life feels lighter and happier and easier when we're in that space. So I definitely feel like it's something that you can get to if you're going through a hard time right now and you're thinking, this sounds great, but I'm not feeling very joyful right now. It's not going to happen overnight. We have to sort of retrain our minds to kind of help us cultivate some of the things that I talked about earlier in this list of 10, and they all kind of work together. So it will be kind of a cumulative effect, but you can absolutely be intentional about bringing in more joy into your everyday life by paying attention to what makes you happy, paying attention to when you feel that you are really the happiest version of yourself, and then do more of that. So whether or not that's surrounding yourself with people that make you feel really good, or taking a quiet moment and reading a book, or just having a hot cup of tea every day. Speaking of which, um, you know, a quiet moment and a hot cup of tea, really, that makes me feel very joyful. So, it's inserting little moments of joy throughout your day that at the end of the day, I think you will really be able to notice the difference. And it's being intentional. And I know that I've said that word a lot, but I feel like, especially now with the coronavirus, we have to be a little bit more intentional about paying attention to what makes us feel good, what makes us feel happy, and then making sure we insert it into our day, into our life. But it does really make a big, big difference. Number 9, find your passion and your purpose. So I feel like I could talk about this for the next 3 hours, but I want to hit on this a little bit. So before I went through breast cancer, I was a financial advisor. I worked at a large bank for over 20 years, and I was a financial advisor. And I really liked it. I liked my clients. I liked that interaction. But I realized that, I was spending a lot of time thinking about things like money and monthly goals and, just all of the pressures and all of that. And it wasn't necessarily what my heart really wanted to do. And I knew that I always wanted to be a writer. I'd always wanted to find my voice. And so after I went through breast cancer, that's when I said, you know what? This doesn't feel in line with really the person that I am today. And so I'm going to take a risk. And I quit my job and I started my blog, Crazy Perfect Life. And, I said, I'm just going to see what happens. And I started writing, and I am so glad that I did that, because it really felt in line with who I was, and it really fed my heart. It really felt good. It brought me happiness. It brought me joy. And I'm going to show you. I published my first book, Crush Cancer, and that was super fun. And I never would have gotten to do that if I hadn't been through breast cancer. And then recently, my second book, I Am My Mother's Daughter, recently launched. And this book is all about the connection between mothers and daughters from one generation to the next. And this book just released in September. So if you order it, you actually can get 5 free gifts if you go to my website, and the link is available there. But you can get 5 free gifts. And some of the gifts, they're really all about helping you connect with the people in your life. And so 2 of them are sharing journals, where you can write to someone and then email that document to another person that you want to kind of grow and connect with and get to know that person better. And then they'll mail it back to you via email, and then you can kind of do that. Also, there's one that will allow you to have a sharing journal with a child. So this is something that I did with my daughters when they were really young, and it was a beautiful way for us to connect. But the bottom line is, give yourself permission to find your passion, find your purpose, and realize that, I'm not the same person that I was 6.5 years ago. you might not be the same person that you were 6.5 years ago. And so, we change, we go through different seasons. And sometimes I think it's really good to take the time to kind of ask yourself, is what I'm doing now, feeding my soul? Is it my purpose now? Is it suiting me today, the version that I am today? Or is it something that I've been doing? And yes, I loved it then, but maybe I don't love it as much now. So you can't get the answers if you don't take the time to ask the questions. And I'm such a big believer in that. So, really, I encourage you to ask yourself some of those questions, figure out really what your purpose is, what your passion is, and then figure out a way to bring that into your life. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to go quit your job. You might say, okay, I realize that I really like art, but I am not able to quit my job because I need to pay my bills and we're in a pandemic. But I'm really passionate about doing my art. So maybe that means that you spend an hour or two during the week where you give yourself scheduled time to really cultivate and do your art because that feels really good. Or maybe it means that you take a few hours on the weekend to give yourself time to kind of grow that skill. The point is this: you can make time to do anything that you want to make time to do, but you've got to be intentional about it. You've got to build it into your calendar. Or, going back to the number one thing that we talked about, where time is our most precious commodity and time is just going to pass you by if you don't pay attention to how you're spending it. So, if you want to find a way to figure out how to bring in something new that you're feeling passionate about, or if your purpose has changed a little bit, you can absolutely do that. It just might take a little bit of creativity. This is also something that I love helping people figure out. So feel free to email me, Dara at crazyperfectlife.com, if you feel like you need some help with this, because sometimes it's good to kind of bounce things off of other people. And the last thing, number 10, is, it's such a big one and it sounds so simple, but love with all your heart. The bottom line is, it's really the relationships we have with the people in our lives that really fill us up and make our lives exceptional or not. And so I really encourage you to figure out, who are your people? Who are the people in your life that you love and care about? Who are your friends and family? And make sure that you are loving them with all your heart. I did a webinar last night and was asked, people are feeling really disconnected right now. How can we connect more with people? And you're not going to be surprised when I say that I said you've got to be intentional about it. Schedule Zoom meetings, schedule FaceTime visits, schedule social distancing visits. But you're not going to be, probably bebopping around town or necessarily in your office and having that connection like we used to. So you have to kind of maybe build that into your day. Another question that I was asked that I think was such a great question was, how do you grow your relationships? How can you connect more to the people that you love and grow your relationships? And this is such an important thing to really think about. Number one, love in a non-judgmental manner. And what that means is that, if you want to love someone and you really care about someone, but you're judging them all the time and they feel that, they're not going to want to be around you. That's not going to solidify your relationship. They have to trust that you are coming to the relationship without judgment, that you have their best interest at heart, that they can trust you. Communication is such a big, big part of that. Have open communication. And that doesn't mean that you're always going to agree, especially I have 2 daughters. This doesn't mean that we are always in agreement, but if I want my daughters to respect me, I have to respect them. So treat people the way you want them to treat you. That means that, they can come to me and tell me whatever they want to tell me. And we've cultivated a really, really close and beautiful relationship. But they know that no matter what, I'm going to do my best to be a judgment free zone. I'm not going to judge them for whatever situation they're in or whatever's happened. I'm going to try to help them the best possible way that I can. But if you want to grow your relationships, you have to have a lot of trust. And being a judgment free zone is really a big part of that. I can't say enough about really opening your heart and letting people in. Love it's not a finite thing. And we're so lucky about that. There's not, it's not like we can say, okay, I only can love these 5 people. Fortunately, our hearts were made to love, and we have the ability to really bring in people into our lives and care about people and feel them caring about us. And so, I think especially right now with everything going on in the world, people really want to feel that connection to other people. People really want to feel that they're loved, that they're cared about. And so reach out to people, stay in touch with people, use the technology that we have, Zoom, FaceTime, do all the things, text. I'm a huge believer of writing handwritten letters because I've personally experienced such an incredible gift when I found a Ziploc bag of letters that was written to me when I was 9 years old until I graduated from college. And the letters were written to me by my mom, who had passed away 20 years earlier. And I recently found this bag of letters, and I can't even tell you what a gift that was, because I could feel when I read the letters, I can feel how much my mom loved me. And it's like getting a little bit of a glimpse into the person that she was in our relationship. And so I talk about that a lot in my book that was recently released, I Am My Mother's Daughter. But, if you want to connect with someone, write them a letter. Write them a letter. Tell them how you feel. And I talk a lot about that in the book. But reach out to people, love with all your heart. It really will come back to you, and it will enhance your life so much. So that is 10 lessons that I learned from going through breast cancer 6.5 years ago. And I feel so incredibly grateful and blessed to be on this side of things and to be able to help people and share the lessons that I learned in hopes that it will maybe give you something to think about in your own life. So maybe it will give you a little nugget to help you create and live the best life that you possibly can. Again, feel free to email me, dara@crazyperfectlife.com. Leave any questions that you have. I'm going to take a moment to see if there are any comments. I just realized that I was not on the right thing. Okay, so feel free. I'm going to check this. I'll check back with this if there are any comments later on throughout the weekend, and I'll do my best to answer your questions. Thanks again for being here today, and I hope you have a beautiful weekend.